What is up, everyone? JD here. I hope you're all doing well today. Today I'm excited to bring you another knife review. Today we're going to be talking about a TwoSun that I picked up. It's not a new model, but it is still a really good model that is out there that you can pick up. As you can see here, TwoSun, you get a basic sleeve with a box on the inside. The box is really hard to get into when the knife's not in there. The box itself comes with the knife wrapped in bubble wrap, so not a whole lot going on there with the box. I like to show you what comes in the box because the way I've changed the format of my channel is now I am carrying the knife and then using it, then giving the impressions about the knife at the same time that I do the review. As you can see here, these satin finishes, man, they be killing a brother. All right, so we'll clean that up. Let's go ahead and run over the specs. Then we'll get to the comparison knives, and then I'll give you my thoughts and impressions and any possible alternatives. So the TwoSun TS129 has a 3.5-inch M390 blade steel, 4.5-inch scales, carbon fiber on the show side, titanium on the non-show side or the lock side. Overall length is 8 inches and the weight is 4.1 ounces. I did weigh that myself because I couldn't find the weight on this particular knife, but we'll go ahead and verify that now. Just make sure it still comes in at the same weight that I verified earlier. Yeah, so 4.2 ounces, same weight. Nothing really changed there. Let's go ahead and get the scale out of the way, and we'll go ahead and go through the comparison knives. Okay, first up for the comparison knives is actually going to be the Spyderco Yojimbo 2. We'll go ahead and move both of these over. As you can see here, the TS129 is a full-size knife. A really good comparison is actually going to be the Shaman. You can see the Shaman has a really similar blade length and very similar handle length, but because you have that finger choil here on the Shaman, you're actually getting more cutting edge on the TS129. Let's go ahead and move these guys out of the way, and we'll go ahead and bring out the crossbar lock. First up is going to be the Benchmade bug out. And I actually forgot. I have sold both of the other crossbar lock knives that I keep on my channel because I'm trying to get one in a different variant and the other one I used towards funds for a different knife on the channel. So we're going to go ahead and bring out the Case Kenzua, which I think is a really nice comparison. It has a very similar presence, not quite as thick, but it definitely has very similar length as well. So those are two comparison knives that you've probably seen on this channel and some of you might be familiar with. If you're not familiar with that Case Kenzua, I do highly recommend you check that one out. Last but not least is going to be my budget knives. First, we're going to bring out the Kubi Royal. This one here is a sub 3-inch knife, so you can really get a nice idea of the size of the TS129. And next, we'll bring out the Buck 110 Slim, which is going to be a little bit longer and have less presence overall. So those are the comparison knives. Hopefully that helped you for a frame of reference for the size of this particular knife. Let me go ahead and jump into my thoughts and impressions, and we'll talk about alternatives. So let me give you my thoughts and impressions. The carbon fiber on here is really well done. Feels very premium. It is true carbon fiber. It is not an inlay, overlay, whatever you want to call the lay. Has a really nice milled titanium lock bar side. This feels really nice in hand, and it does offer just enough texturing to feel good in hand, but not enough to be a hindrance for going in and out of the pocket. It goes in and out of the pocket nicely. I do feel like the clearance is kind of close here, so when you have some thicker material, it kind of hits and wants to stop there sometimes, but it's not awful. Nice titanium backspacer. I kind of wish they would have used the backspacer to kind of do a loop and just got rid of the hole. I think the aesthetics would have looked much nicer. Really like this blade shape. It is very reminiscent of the bare knuckle from Kershaw because it has like this upsweep and then it kind of comes and levels out and the tip comes down to a really nice utility shape, so it works really well. Thumb hole has a very different thumb hole style to it, so it does have like a chamfered thumb hole on both sides, and it actually works really well. I have found it's very easy to deploy this with the thumb hole when you're pushing in an upward motion, And for the reverse flick, I have found when you come down into the bottom of the thumb hole and you kind of swing it out and away from the knife, like going this way, it works really well. I did slow down for that to show it to you, but I found that it works really well. Now I have found left-handed, I have to come down onto the lock bar and push it out, and even then I have to remember not to put too much pressure because it's just outside of that and my meat hangs over. So if I let up lightly and do it, I can do it. Or if I try to come back onto the back of the knife and do it, I have to make sure it's down in the palm well. I can do it sometimes, but I found the easiest way is to compromise and use this to keep the knife down and keep the thumb back off of there for the reverse flick for the lefty. So not super lefty friendly, but you can manipulate it just enough to get that reverse flick going. Now when it comes to the flipper tab, because you end up kind of, for me, putting it inside the knuckles here to open it, it is, oops, not an issue at all. Sorry, I'm looking through the camera again. That was not the knife, that was my fault. Not an issue getting that to go out whatsoever. Now, I'm predominantly right-handed, so it is much more intuitive and natural for me to do it over here. That's the difference that you're seeing there. I kind of wish that they had taken the jimping all the way over onto the top, because you saw there just now, I kind of missed. I feel like if they had had that tighter jimping and had it going all the way to the top, I would have got it. Gosh, that was really snappy. It would have worked better for me. But I found that I actually prefer to use the hole more than the tab on this particular knife. It just feels more natural for me. Jimping for the thumb is in a decent place. Just wish they could have gone out a little bit more with it. Right about here would have been good for me, but again, I do have larger hands. I also found that I like to use this like I use my smock, and that I end up dedicating that cutout for the middle finger, and I end up using this unoccupied space here for the front finger, and that puts me in prime real estate for push cuts, really good push cuts, and even utility cuts, because this position here does put me out closer to the tip for the utility cuts. One thing that was a little weird on mine, and you can see the scratches there, it had like burr here and it felt really rough in hand, and then I felt like the tip had just a little bit of burr as well. Now I did mess with it, take it across the stone, and I pretty much got, you know, the entire blade is really sharp, but really down at the edge I was able to kind of get rid of the burr, but you can see it's starting to tear through the paper there as opposed to the clean cut that you're seeing here. You can see the difference from there. So I do need to finish working that out a little bit, but there was some really weird burr. But overall, the edge on this is fantastic. It came razor sharp, and I think Jared has this one over at Neves Knives. I want to say that he said the M390 on this was really well treated, and it does. It cuts through everything really nicely. You can see how well it cuts through the material. It's really well done, and I mean, especially when you choke up, really easy to control that. Really like that. That is the advantage to a satin blade, is that it masks everything on the cuts that you're getting, as far as like those marks and the heat from pushing through the material. It masks all of that really, really well. Really comfortable in hand. I'm really surprised how much I like this knife. I liked the way that it looked, and I thought it would be a good knife, but I really like this a lot. I can see myself carrying this. This is a Leon Ma design, if I'm saying that right. I think that's his mark right there. It has really good geometry. It's pretty thin, guys. Really good edge. Nice access to the lock bar. You can see the action just, oh man, you got to be careful with that. You can see it just wants to fall into there. You really just kind of need to move up and let it stop there, and then when you get past the detent break, which is a little bit late, so there is, let's see, where is the detent break? I'm having a hard time finding it. Give me a second. So when you get here, it won't fall shut. So there's your detent break. Not too bad actually, now that I'm seeing it on camera. But you just need to get just past that, and then she'll fall shut. She's guillotine fall shut. Be really careful with this one. This one here will want to just continuously poke into the thumb. Outside of that one complaint, and the pocket clip being a little thin and a little tight down to the knife, I would have liked it to be just a hint taller, so I didn't have that problem with the thick material pants when I wear those. And coming across there, that would have been nice to have as well. Detent on it was perfectly tuned, perfectly centered. not a whole lot that I can say. This is a really good buy. This is probably one of the most affordable premium builds that you can find out there. TwoSun really hit a home run with this one. Leon Ma did a great job with the design. Again, very reminiscent of the bare knuckle blade shape, which I really liked. I kind of regretted selling my bare knuckle a few months after I sold it, but I needed funds for the channel, guys. What can I say? What are some alternatives? Let me think for a second. If you're looking at something premium, you could pick up the TS255 from TwoSun. This one here has 14C28N titanium with carbon fiber inlays, and you know, it's a little bit longer and it has a very different, it's not quite as utilitarian shape to it. Mine, I've done some work on it. I apologize. I put some jimping out there on the edge because I like the jimping. I tried to go with the tight jimping first, but I found that it wasn't really working for me, so I went with the deeper jimping. Really like that a lot. And then I did acid etch and stone wash, and then I sanded down the blade to give it a more worn look. Just kind of wanted to play around with the looks. But you can get this one because it has the 14C, I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it on camera. It has the 14C28N. You can find these for like $99, but if you don't like that hammerhead shape on there, that might not be a good option for you. Another option for you would probably be the Concept Convict. This one here has S35UN, has a more aggressive utility shape to it, really thin, nice ergos, fantastic action, good access to the lock bar. I mean, fantastic. I try to use the flipper tab. Fantastic action. Reverse flick works really well on this. I mean, this thing is really awesome. It's a little bit smaller, but that is a good potential option for you. If you wanted a US option, it's going to cost you a little bit more, but I would recommend the Shaman. This feels a little bit nicer in hand because it has some weight to it, and I think that has something to do with the thickness of the blade and how much steel you're getting with this knife as to why it feels like that. The other thing that's impressive with this is with phosphor bronze washers, it is still fall shut. It's not closing because I'm trying to get my finger out of the way of the nub, and I'm not dedicated enough to get rid of the nub. I don't want to modify my Shaman. I still have a special place in my heart for it, but feels really good. Really fantastic ergos, and even more so with the skinny scales for me. Like, this thing is awesome, but they both have the thumb hole. This one here does have a little bit more of a safety feature to it because you do have the compression lock. Sorry, I forgot about it for a second, to keep your finger out of the blade path. And just to show you just how good the action on these are, that is the detent from the compression lock that slows it down. It is butter smooth action on these things. If you don't like the size of these, a knife that I really like that is smaller and really more friendly from an EDC perspective, something that's not going to occupy a lot of pocket space in hand but has really good materials, that's going to be this Blade HQ Skyline. I don't understand how more content creators aren't talking about this. It's a USA made knife. It's 99 bucks, 20 CV, G10, really good ergos, thin and slicey. Like, this thing is bug out profile and size. Pocket clip sucks on it. I'm not going to even try to justify that pocket clip, but it's an older design, so I think that's part of the reason why. But it feels really comfortable in hand, and this is a nice option for a small blade if you like something that's a little bit smaller, and it is on phosphor bronze washers. The detent did come a little light on it. I did take it apart and tune that a little bit, just a little. I didn't want to take it over too much because I still wanted really smooth action. I didn't want the detent doing like it does on the Spyderco and slowing it down. But man, that thing comes out really nice. And again, they do such a good job with that stone wash. That's such an understated thing on these knives. It hides all of the, well, you can see some of the lines, but it hides the lines so well, and I think it looks good, and it keeps it from being a fingerprint magnet as well. So I do really appreciate that. I think it's a little hot out here today. It's like 90, well, it's 80 in the garage, but outside it's like 90 something. So I'm not really getting that fall shut action on here, so I'll have to take that inside and make sure it's got some good lube. And the detent on that, it has a very late break. There you go. I think it's starting to, I think she's starting to warm up a little bit, but I mean, this is a really good buy for 99 bucks. I don't have too many other options. The last one that I like recommended here as of late is going to be the Conspirator. The Conspirator has Nitro V. It is a very similar shape and length. It doesn't have as aggressive of a utility tip on the end, but I think this one actually has the better ergos, and it has the button lock, which I still think is very popular and I like a lot. You can pick one of these up for around 70, 75 bucks. If you like the utility shape, then just get the Chevalier. It has a very similar utility type attitude towards the knife, so it gets out on the tip very nicely. I had the micarta version with the coated blade, and I just feel like the satin blade on this makes all the difference in the world. Super snappy and very smooth, very smooth. I like the chunky feel to it. I feel like even though it's not as tall, I feel like the thickness in there feels really good in hand. Having said all of that, I would still recommend this knife at the price point. The blade shape, the utility shape, the edge is done well. The materials are very premium, feels very good in hand. It feels like a higher end knife when you're holding it. All the micro milling, the little touches, little details, getting up on the edge of the blades, or up on the blade's edge for the push cuts very comfortably and feeling confident doing so makes a huge difference. The carbon fiber, I've tried to look for voids. It is really well done. It is very tightly done. I have not found voids yet, but I probably will if I look hard enough and long enough, but I haven't been able to find any, and that's pretty impressive because this, it's a material that's weaved together, so it's really hard to avoid having voids. This one doesn't have it, and you get two means of deployment. So really nice knife. I can recommend it. I gave you some alternatives depending on your mindset and what it is that you're looking for, or what your budget is. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, do me a favor, leave a like. I would appreciate that. If you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. Don't know why you haven't done that already. If you are subscribed, thanks for supporting the channel, and I appreciate you. I hope all of you have a fantastic week, and until next time, peace.